Genesis 15 is one of the most powerful covenant passages in Scripture. It opens with Abram in a vulnerable moment. He has just turned down wealth from the kingdom of Sodom, and though he has won the battle, he's still waiting on the promise of a child. God had promised descendants and land, but all Abram had was a servant, Eliezer. It must have seemed like God's promise was growing colder with every passing year. But God breaks into the silence. "Fear not, Abram, I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great." God doesn't start with logistics or examples. He starts with himself. He reminds Abram that the greatest reward isn't the child or the land, it's God himself. The giver is more important than the gift. Still, Abram is honest in his doubt in verses 2 and 3. He asks how these promises could come to pass when he has no child. God responds with a dramatic reassurance. He takes Abram outside and tells him to count the stars. His offspring will be just as numerous. Then comes one of the most significant verses in all of Scripture. Verse 6 says, "And he believed the Lord, and he counted it to him as righteousness." This verse is foundational for our understanding of salvation by faith. Abram wasn't made right with God because of his actions, but because he believed. Paul later quotes this verse in Romans 4 and Galatians 3 to show that righteousness comes through faith, not law. In the second half of the chapter, God formalizes his promise through a covenant ceremony. This might seem strange to us with animals being cut in half, but it was a common ancient practice to cut a covenant in this way, symbolizing, "May this happen to me if I break this promise." But what's remarkable is this: only God walks between the pieces in verse 17, represented by a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch. Abram doesn't walk through. This means that God takes full responsibility for keeping the covenant, even if Abram fails. God not only gives the promise, but he guarantees it with his own presence and faithfulness. Are you in a waiting season like Abram? Waiting on God's promises can be hard, especially when nothing seems to be happening. Let Abram's story remind you that God does not forget. His timing may not be ours, but his faithfulness is unshakable. Are you doubting God's plans? Bring your doubts to him like Abram did. God is not afraid of your honest question. He meets us in our weakness and reminds us of his word. Are you trying to earn God's favor? Remember Genesis 15, verse 6. Righteousness doesn't come through striving, but through believing. Trust in his grace, not your performance.